Trump has given in to Russia before negotiations? Despite his pledge to quickly end the conflict in Ukraine, US President Trump may face difficulties due to losing some advantages when negotiations with Russia are about to begin. On February 12, US President Donald Trump had separate phone calls with his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts, Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. He asked US officials to start the negotiation process to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict that has lasted nearly 3 years. Reuters reported, the phone calls took place right after US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told allies in Brussels, Belgium, that it was unrealistic for Ukraine to restore its borders before 2014, the time when Russia unilaterally annexed the Crimean Peninsula. Hegseth also said that the US does not consider Ukraine's NATO membership as part of the solution to ending the conflict, while emphasizing that the US military will not have a security presence in Ukraine. Michael McFaul, former US ambassador to Russia from 2012 to 2014, questioned the Trump administration's strategy toward Russia and Ukraine. Why would the White House give Russia an advantage, like territorial concessions or denying Ukraine NATO membership, before negotiations begin? McFaul wrote, I have negotiated with the Russians. We never give them anything for free. Ukraine and Europe are surprised. Controlling about a fifth of Ukraine's territory, Russia demands Kiev make concessions and remain permanently neutral. Meanwhile, Ukraine demands that Moscow withdraw its troops and that the country become part of NATO or receive equivalent security guarantees. Since the conflict began in February 2022, former US President Joe Biden and Europe have firmly demanded that Russia withdraw its troops and leave open the possibility of Ukraine becoming a NATO member. Not only that, the US and Europe have also provided Ukraine with tens of billions of dollars in military aid. Although the new administration in Washington has repeatedly hinted that it will not support all of Ukraine's wishes, recent statements from Hegseth and Trump have left Europe stunned. No NATO membership, no troops on the ground? Sounds like abandoning Ukraine, wrote former Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis. The delegates flew to Munich not to negotiate, but to deliver bad news to Kiev. Still, Trump insisted on February 12, I support Ukraine. Dr. Stephen Wertheim, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, called Hegseth's comments a concession to reality. This does not mean that the United States is ready to recognize occupied Ukrainian territories as legitimate Russian territory, Wertheim said, adding that ruling out Ukraine's NATO membership signals to Russia that a realistic solution is possible. Minerals for security. The remarks by Mr. Trump and Mr. Hegseth coincided with a visit to Kiev by US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Mr. Bessent said a mineral deal between Kiev and Washington would provide a post-conflict security shield for Ukraine. President Zelensky shared that Ukraine was ready to open up its mineral resources to US investors. On the same day, Mr. Trump hinted at a mineral deal that would secure US funding for Ukraine. I told Mr. Biden, you should ask for a loan or some kind of guarantee, like oil and gas, in exchange for the money, aid. Mr. John Herbst, US ambassador to Ukraine from 2003 to 2006, said the US had lost some advantages over Russia. But Mr. Bessent's recent visit to Kiev was a positive sign. Trump proposed exchanging US weapons for Ukrainian minerals. So, by Trump's logic, this is a way to send weapons to Ukraine. Herbst said, this is an important issue and a very positive one. However, a quick deal with terms that do not distribute benefits equally would set a dangerous precedent. British lawmaker James Cleverly said that starting negotiations by stating what each side should give up is not a strong move. The Kremlin said on February 12 that Putin and Trump had agreed to meet and that the Russian president had invited his US counterpart to visit Moscow. Brett Bruen, a foreign policy advisor to former US President Barack Obama, likened Trump's agreement to meet Putin to the two high-level summits he held in his first term with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un aimed at curbing Pyongyang's nuclear program. But North Korea continued to develop nuclear weapons.